6 plus 10 gives us
21.
16. 5 minus 3 gives us 2. So if we are looking at this, 5 minus 3 is 2, so we're putting the 2, we're adding them vertically. And 11 plus 7 gives us 18. So is this true? 16 plus 2 equals 18. So as you are looking at your problems, the key thing I want you to put down, anytime you add two true statements together, you will always get a true statement. You're writing that in that way. Anytime you add two true statements together, it will always equal two true statements. Other key thing with this is anytime you multiply every single thing in an equation by a certain number, it will always be a true statement. If you multiply everything by that same number. Yeah. Yeah, we are going to be looking at adding them. And it would probably work if you're subtracting also. Guys, I need you quiet. So, we are going to solve this system by adding. And I want you to take a look at each of our coefficients. So, there is not a number written in front of x. If there is no number there, it is understood, Aaron, to be what number? If there's not a number. A 1, right? So we got 1 in front of x, the 1 in front of this x, there's a 1 in front of this y, and a 1 here. It is understood, remember, that the coefficient is 1 if there is not a number there. Is there one of the variables that has the same number in front of it, but the signs are opposite?
No.
Signs are opposite, number is the same. If we look at our y's, right? If I look at the y's, in front of both x's, they're both positive 1. This is a minus 1, negative 1. This is a positive 1. So we're going to add them together. So 1x plus 1x will give us 2x. 1y, negative y plus positive y gives us 0, right? Negative plus positive. And 4 plus 5 will equal 9. So you want to write that equation
What did I say?
down. Okay. You're going to write these two things, and you're going to write this work down since you don't have it. You can sit right up in the front. Okay. So at this point, if I'm looking at this equation, we could really just rewrite this as 2x equals 9. How do we solve for x at this point? If we are solving for x, we want to divide both sides by 2. So we're going to take 2x and divide by 2, and we're going to take 9 and divide by 2. Could I leave this on our worksheet today? Sometimes it was left as an improper fraction, 9 over 2. 2 goes into 9, 4 and a half. And a lot of times we even like the decimal better, 4.5. So my value of x is that x is going to equal 4.5. Okay. So when we are solving, we now, because our answer always is an ordered pair. Some of you, when you get back your quiz that we took yesterday, you're going to see you told me the x and the y, and you didn't put the answer as an ordered pair. So keeping in mind our x and y, we now have the first part, 4.5. If we go to the first equation, x minus y equals 4. We are going to replace this x with, what did we say x was equal to? 4.5. So we have 4.5 minus, and I'd like you to put a minus 1y, because this is where a lot of you are making some really careless mistakes. Is that if we are trying to get rid of this 4.5 on both sides, in order to do that, Janessa, what do I have to subtract to get rid of 4.5? I have to subtract 4.5, right? So back behind this 4, please put minus 4.5. Now, if I'm looking at that, that gives me this problem. Negative 1y equals negative 0.5. I don't want to know what negative y equals. So we have to either multiply or divide both of these by negative 1, and y is equal to 0.5. Does that make both equations true? 4.5 minus 0.5, that equals 4. If I take 4.5 and add 0.5, does it equal 5? So it checks in both equations. So my answer is that 4.5, 0.5. Now, not all of our equations are always going to look quite as nice. And at this one, it says, well, could we solve this system by solving it? So one of the first things I'll have you do is we always want to look at our equations and try and decide, is there one in front of one variable, are the numbers the same? And in this case, in front of our y's, they both have a 3. So, but they're the same number. If I add these together, please quit, gentlemen. So, if I am adding these together, I would get 6. It wouldn't cancel. It would not eliminate. So, notice it has this minus out in front. That's because you could actually think of subtracting these two equations. If you are subtracting them, what we really might be thinking, Jeffrey, move your desk back. Quit doing that, okay? So if we are looking at this, right, we might decide to multiply one of these equations, everything by negative 1. So please put out in front of this a negative 1. We are going to take negative 1 times every one of these, and we are going to write it behind here. So negative 1 times 5x is going to be negative 5x. 3y is now going to become plus a negative 3y. And the negative 8, when I take it times a negative 1, will give me positive 8. Rewrite that first equation so that your x's and y's and equal sign are all lined up. So you have 2x plus 3y equals 4. And now we are going to add. So 2, because look what's going to happen when we look at our y's. You have a plus 3 and a negative 3y. And because those signs are opposite, they will eliminate out or give us 0. Aaron, question. You could have done it to actually either equation, but you just have to get the signs to be opposite. And two equations, these are equivalent equations if you multiply every single thing by the same number. Okay? So as we start adding, 2 minus 5x is going to give us negative 3x. We're going to have 0y. Could you write 3x equals 12? Definitely. Negative 3x equals 12. Yes. If I have negative 3x equals 12, I'm probably going to write the 0y first, just so that everyone understands that it was 0. So if I have negative 3x equals 12, in order to solve that, Jerica, what am I going to do? Divide by negative 3. We divide by negative 3. And if I'm looking, Emma, my solution is going to be x is equal to negative 4. We have the first part of our answer, right? Our x is negative 4. Okay? I am now going to write one of my equations. Does it matter which equation I write? No. We are going to write the first one, and you want to write the original. So we are going to write, so we already did this other part too of adding that. You want to fill that in? So you want to add, put 2x plus 3y equals 4. Yep, you're just writing this with us. Just fill it in, I know. So as you are doing that, we are going to replace the x this time with negative 4. So we're going to have 2 times negative 4 plus 3y equals 4. Cody, if I'm multiplying The 2 times negative 4, I'm going to end up with
-8.
-8. So I'm now going to have -8 plus 3y equals 4. Grace, if I'm trying to get the 3y totally by itself with not a plus -8, what do I need to do? I'm going to add 8 to both sides, right? So now I'm left with 3y equals 12. Johan, if I'm going to solve for y,
You have to divide.
both sides by 3, and my y is going to equal 4. So my answer at this point is -4, 4. I'm on the test, I'm on a quiz. Yesterday, a lot of you didn't do the check. We use the first equation. So if we are going to check in that second equation, okay, please write right below this, check. So Wally, if we're using the second equation, I'm going to put 5 times, what was my x value? Careful. So 5 times -4. Then I'm going to put plus, what's the rest of that equation, Wally? 3, but I'm not going to use y. What was y equal to? So I'm going to put 4. And I'm trying to see if this is equal to -8, right? That was what my solution is supposed to be. -20 plus 12 is equal to -8. So it checks is what we are taking a look at as we look at the problem, okay? So when you do your problem, you can always do a check to make sure you got it right. So take a look at these 2 on your next page going down the arrow. So when we take a look at those next ones going down, we have in front of the x, in the first x, we have a -1. In the second x, we have +1. You're going to put an arrow right above here because those are going to eliminate when we add them. So do that. So if we are adding, Isaac, start adding our 2 equations. -1x plus 1x leaves us with 0x, so 0. We're going to add those next ones together. So Riley, if I add 4y plus 2y, 6y. Then I'm going to be adding those next ones together, and Riley, 7 plus 5 gives us 12. So at this point, 6y equals 12. We're going to divide both sides by 6, and y is 2. Kind of a little quicker sometimes than the substitution, right? That substitution got a little long, kind of just taking a lot of time. We have y's too. We're not done with the problem, right? We just got this answer. So, which equation, as we look at them, do we want to substitute into? And it doesn't really matter. So, Tanisha, you want to pick first? Second one. So, write the second equation, x plus 2y equals 5. And we're going to replace x plus 2 times 2 equals 5. So I get x plus 4 equals 5. And you leave minus 4 on both sides. And x equals 1. And now I just do a really quick, that was the second equation. So if I put in -1 plus 4 times 2, does it equal 7? -1 plus 8, it checks, right? So just even, I don't always have to write it down, but I want to mentally check. It looks like we should eliminate these, but what happens if you add them together as they are written? We get -6y, nothing cancels. So we need to multiply one equation, everything, by -1. Dallas, which equation do you want to multiply? Because it really doesn't matter. So choose from. You want to multiply the first one, everything by -1, or the second, everything by -1? Second. So We're going to multiply everything here by negative 1. That is going to leave us with a negative 5x. This is now going to become a plus 3y and then negative 7. As we add, Emma, 2x plus negative 5x will leave us with negative 3x. When I look at my y terms, that's 0. I don't need to write that. Irving, when I add the 4 plus negative 7, I'm going to end up with, careful, 4 minus 7, or 4 plus negative 7. Yeah. So Megan, I'm solving for x, and at negative 3 times x, what do I need to divide by both sides? You divide both sides by negative 3. So those of you that may have really disliked the substitution, this method seems like, oh, this is just so much quicker and easier. These things cancel. And we do start with the easier stuff, and they do cancel all the time. We get to harder ones later, okay? But which equation, if we are looking at this one, do you want to use while I'm talking? So we're going to go with 2 times 1 minus 3y equals 4. This is 2 minus 3y equals 4. And this is where some of you, my suggestion is change that to plus negative 3. And then Aaron, I'll see if I get any questions while we're doing this. If not, I'll answer it. So subtract 2 from both sides, right? Negative 3y equals 2. Divide both sides by negative 3. And we get negative 2/3. Can you have fraction answers? Yeah. And if you look at this one, as you just think, oh man, there's no way I did this right. I had to mess it up. She wouldn't give me one of these problems on a quiz. It's supposed to be integer answers like yesterday's. We're supposed to come out with the 4 and the 8. So now we go to this second equation. And in this second equation, if we go 5 times 1, that's 5. And the original equation was a negative 3. And if we go negative 3 times 2/3, and it was a negative 2/3, that's going to become 6 divided by 3. And 6 divided by 3 is 2, and 5 plus 2 is 7. That was the original equation that was in black, right? Because this would have been 6 divided by 3, and that is 2. So it checks that it works. Now, as you look on that last page of notes for this unit, Erin, did I get your question? So on the quiz, next week when we take this big quiz, I will have 2 questions. You look at this poster that you have to solve by graph. There's going to be 2 that are substitution, you must use substitution, and 2 where I will tell you have to use elimination. By the time we take the test and we get to all the story problems, I don't care which way you use. As long as on the quiz you can show me that you can do each of the 2 types. Okay? So the ones today, the next few days, we're going to do all elimination. So when we take a look at this, it says sometimes we must rewrite to eliminate the variable. In order to do that, elimination, the columns have to line up, meaning you have to have all the x's, then you got to have all the y's, then the equal, then equal the number. So if we look at this first equation, as you take a look at that first equation, does it make sense that you could get the 10 by itself? That what we had to do here in this equation was we added 2y. And instead of putting the 10 first, we put the x plus 2y equals 10. So please write that right behind and turn to the next page. So once we do that, write that. 3x plus 2y equals 10. The next thing we are going to take a look at is we need the 12 by itself in this equation. So what would I need to do to get rid of the negative 8x here? I'm going to add. And I'm going to put the x term first over here. So I want the 8x to come first. So when I look at that equation, I'm going to write it as 8x minus 2y equals 12. Do we now have in front of one variable the same number but opposite signs? No. Do we have same number but the sign, the positive negative is different? No. Yeah, sit up, put your head up, don't fall asleep. Which variable? The y's, right? The y, right here, if we are looking at this, if we are looking at this equation, the y's are going to cancel. So 3 plus 8 gives us 11x, right? So if we're going to add those, we're going to have 11x. The y's cancel. 10 plus 12 gives us 22. So just by rewriting it, we can add them together right away. So Haley, we're going to finish that problem, dividing both sides by 11. And what did you get x equal?
2.
X is 2. So now, go back to one of your originals. Elijah, which original do you want to go back to? First two. 10 minus 2y equals 3 times 2, because that's where our x was. So 10 minus 2y equals 6. We are going to subtract by 10. Negative 2y equals negative 4. And our y is 2. Hopefully that's not what's on the field. You should, right. So if I plug that in, 8 times 2 is 16, minus 2 times 2 is 4. 16 minus 4 is 12. So I can even do a mental check. I don't always have to write it down. The last one. Do we have them lined up correctly? So questions 9 through 12 or something on your worksheet, you have to rewrite like this, okay? So we want the x's, the y's, and the numbers. So if I want this one to have the 4x, how do I move this 2y over? Can I just put minus 2y, or what do I have to do? I have to add it. So I'm going to go plus 2y equals negative 16. Now, all I really have to do is rewrite these, but are the x's going to cancel if they're both 4s? Yeah. So if they're both positive 4, I'd add them and get 8. 8 doesn't cancel. So I'm going to take this whole thing times a negative 1. Okay? But I don't want to put the y first. I want to put the x first. So the x is going to be negative 4x, right? We're taking it times a negative. Then we are going to have plus 4y, negative 32. Zach, if we're adding those together, what are we going to get?
The 4x's will cancel.
Yeah, that's 0.
And then you have 6y. And then you have negative 48.
Negative 48. You know your division facts, divided by 6, right? Y is equal to negative 8. Probably a lot quicker than doing those substitution ones, right? For those of you that were really getting bogged down on that G6 and G7. So we have y is negative 8. If I'm looking at this, I'm going to go to the first equation. 4x equals negative 16 minus 2 times y. That means 4x equals negative 16. Negative 2 times negative 8. That's a positive 16. If I add negative 16 and positive 16, 0. And what happens when we divide 0 by any number? It's 0. So x is 0. Now if you leave your answer like this, when we get to the story problems, that's kind of okay, but at this point it is not. We want to leave our answer as 0, -8. Okay? And as you look at that, we use the first equation, doesn't work in the second. -4 times -8. That's 32, right? Plus, the original one in blue was 4 times 0. That's going to be plus 0. Does it equal 32? So you can do those checks, okay? All right, I know. So, homework. One of my hints is put an arrow above the ones that, when you start adding them, are going to cancel. So, in number 1, as you add those, the y's are going to cancel. In number 6, the y's are going to cancel. But it says, when you get to 9 to 12, you need to rewrite. When I look at number 4, the x's cancel, right? I add them together. I still have to have an x and a y. Okay, so you still have to have 2 answers. Okay? Number 9, let's rewrite it, and then the rest of the time will be yours to work. If I'm going to rewrite this, I need this second equation to be lining up with the x, the y, the number. So I am going to subtract 2y in this equation. My new equation would be 5x minus 2y equals 3. I am going to line that up, please don't do that, with the x plus 2y equals 15. At this point,